So, to read the first story for us, we have a returning reader, very eloquent reader, by name William Sterling. William, take it away.
Hello, I'm back again to read some more stories for you this time. So today I will be reading The Contest. Anansi was walking through the forest when he tripped and fell into a pile of dung. Ah! Oh! He screamed angrily. He quickly had to find a stream or river where he could wash the dung off. So he stumbled on. The flies of the forest, who loved dung, began to swarm around the Spider-Man. Anansi tried hitting off the flies. Go away! Go away! He shouted, but the flies kept buzzing over him. Ugh. Anansi had to get to a river or stream as fast as possible. He tried to make his way towards the river, but he could not see where he was going. Millions of flies surrounded him. He couldn't see a thing. My glasses, I just can't see without them. Unknown to Anansi, there was a village close by. A crowd gathered in the middle of the village. Everyone was dressed beautifully. They were singing and dancing. This was a dress competition. Everyone had their best outfits on and hopes to win. The chief would give a big prize to the man or woman with the best outfit. Anansi heard the music and laughter and stumbled towards the sound. When the crowd saw him, they cheered with amazement at the sight of him. Millions of flies hovered around Anansi. Their wings reflected the sun's rays and made it look like a million little stars were shining over the Spider-Man. This amazing outfit floated and moved with the man who wore it. Everyone stared in wonder. Anansi did smell rather funny, but the dress looked so extraordinary that no one thought too much about it. The chief spoke and everyone fell silent. He said, wrinkling his nose. This is the most amazing outfit that we have ever seen, he said. It shines like the sun and moves like the wind. Everyone clapped and cheered. Anansi received the prize and ran off to the nearest stream. And that is how Anansi the Spider-Man won a dress contest.
This next story is entitled Stories for Children. Stories for Children. Let's get into the story and let's see what Anansi is up to this time. Some children once came to Anansi, the Spider-Man. Tell us a story, Spider-Man. Tell us a story. Tell us a story, they said. Anansi did not know any stories and the children were very disappointed. At that time, all the stories of the world belonged to God. Nana Nyankopon. So in the Twi language, Nana Nyankopon means God. So all the stories at that time belonged to God, Nana Nyankopon. So Anansi decided to go up into the skies to see him. When Anansi explained the children's plight, Nana Nyankopon said, I will give you the stories you want, Spider-Man, if you do something for me. Tell me what you want, and I will do it, exclaimed Anansi. But Nana Nyankopon laughed. Ha 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 Get me Osibo the leopard, Mobro the hornets, Onyini the python, and Motia the dwarf. If you get me all these, I will give you what you ask for, he said. Anansi crawled back to the ground, deep in thought. First of all, he had to find Osibo the leopard. After thinking for several days, he had an idea. The Spider-Man prowled the forest till he found Osibo. Anansi hid and spoke to the leopard in a quiet, sweet voice. I hear you're the most powerful animal in the forest, quipped Anansi. You have a beautiful pelt, powerful teeth, and strong paws. I hear you play games and you win every time, added the Spider-Man. The leopard wanted to eat Anansi, but he stopped because he liked to hear nice things about himself. Yes, because I am the smartest and most powerful animal in the jungle, the leopard replied proudly. Everyone knew that the leopard's favorite game was tie up. So, Anansi suggested they play tie up. The leopard laughed to himself. The Spider-Man is so small, he thought. After he ties me up and I untie myself, I will tie him up and eat him. The leopard agreed to play, so he lay still and allowed Anansi to tie him up. What the leopard didn't know was that Anansi's web was thin but strong. He tied up the leopard so tightly that the leopard couldn't move. Untie me quickly! Untie me quickly! Said the leopard, feeling uncomfortable, feeling very, very uncomfortable. But Anansi laughed and put Osibo the leopard into a big bag. The Spider-Man's next step was to find Mobro the hornets. Anansi found the largest plantain leaf he could find and filled a pot with water. He then went into the forest looking for the hornet's nest. Soon, he heard them buzzing in the trees. Bzzz, bzzz, bzzz. Quickly, the Spider-Man climbed onto a very tall tree. He held the plantain leaf with one hand and poured water over it. The water drizzled down like rain. Rain! 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 Yelled Anansi. The hornets buzzed angrily. Bzzz! 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 They hated to get wet. Anansi kept pouring the water. Come! He called the hornets. Come! Hide in my pot! Come! Come quickly! Hide in my pot! It's dry inside and you will be saved from the rain. The hornets quickly flew into Anansi's empty pot, happy to find a dry place. But as soon as they were in, Anansi sealed the pot. The Spider-Man's next task was to find Onyini the python. Anansi found a long palm branch and sat under a tree close to Onyini's home. The Spider-Man began to talk to himself. I told my wife, Aso, that Onyini is much longer than the palm branch. Yet Aso keeps saying that he's much shorter than the branch. Aso never ever believes what I tell her, he grumbled in a loud voice. Now, Onyini was very close and heard everything. Of course, I am longer than that little branch, the python thought indignantly. Anansi asked Onyini if he could measure him by tying him to a stick to check his length. The python agreed. Anansi firmly tied the python to the stick and placed him in a bag. The Spider-Man now had to find Motia the dwarf. So in the tree language, Motia means dwarf. The Spider-Man now had to find Motia the dwarf. Motia was hard to find, but Anansi knew she liked the odum tree. He made a sticky gum man, and placed him near the tree. He also placed a small bowl of yam next to the gum man. Then he went away. When all was quiet and Motia was sure she was alone, she crawled out and saw the little bowl of yam. She ate it and thanked the gum man. The gum man, however, didn't answer. Motia thought the gum man was being very rude. She touched him, pam, and her hand got stuck. "Let go of my hand! Let go of my hand!" she shouted to push the gunman away. The other hand got stuck too, pam. "Let go! Let go!" She could not pull herself away. Anansi came back to the odum tree, took Motia of the gunman, and put her in a bag. Anansi now had everything that Onyame wanted in return for the stories. He had Osibo the leopard, Mobro the hornets, Onyini the python, and Motia the dwarf. Anansi took everything up to Nana Nyankopon. "Well, Spider-Man, do you have what I asked?" asked God. "Yes," replied Anansi, and he laid out Osibo the leopard, Onyini the python, Mobro the hornets, and Motia the dwarfs. "You are very brave, little Spider-Man," said Nana Nyankopon. He was surprised, but pleased. "As a reward for your bravery, I will give you all my stories." When Anansi came back to his village that night, he had many stories to tell. Many stories with him. The children gathered around Anansi and listened to his stories all night. So that is how come Anansi was able to tell many, many stories. The end.
The magic drum. Anansi's neighbor had a farm. He was a very good farmer and grew beans. They were the most delicious beans in the land. Anansi the Spider-Man loved beans. He loved them so much that he could eat them every day. Anansi, however, was incredibly lazy. Whilst his neighbor worked on his farm from morning to dusk, Anansi slept and dreamt of his neighbor's beans all day and night. One night, Anansi crawled into his neighbor's farm and saw the beautiful bean pods glistening in the moonlight. Said Anansi, and licked his lips. He peered around into the dark to make sure that no one was watching. He was quite sure he was all alone. Anansi quickly ate a pot of beans. They were delicious. He grabbed some more and ran out of the farm and ate them all up. Yum, yum, yum. What Anansi didn't know was that the neighbors had placed a magic drum in the bean plant. The magic drum would start to beat very loudly if anyone stole and ate the beans. Anansi, of course, didn't know this. As he ran out of the farm, he was terrified to hear a deafening sound come right out of his own belly. Bam, bam, bam. The drum beat loudly. Bam, bam, bam. The drum beat so hard that Anansi fell to the ground in pain. He screamed. The sound of the drum and Anansi's screams woke everyone up. Men, women, children ran out to see Anansi. They found the Spider-Man on the ground, groveling in pain. Anansi was caught stealing. Everyone laughed. Serves him right. The neighbor whose beans Anansi had stolen didn't think it was funny at all. He grabbed a huge stick and chased Anansi around the village. The Spider-Man had to hide for dear life. He ran up into his web till he was out of sight. There he sat for a long, long time, sulking with shame. The end.
So, this next story is entitled Feeding the Village. Feeding the Village. Let's get into it. Once, the Spider-Man was sitting under his favorite tree when he saw his friend the lizard. Lizard looked weary and dirty. His hair was all overgrown and out of shape. "Let me cut your hair," suggested Anansi. "You will look better." Anansi trimmed his friend's hair. When he was done, the lizard looked at himself in a pool of water. He looked good, but Anansi's thoughts were all about where to get food. Anansi never does anything for free, does he? Anansi knew that there was a village nearby that had lots of delicious food, but no one wanted to share it with the lazy Spider-Man. Anansi then came up with a bright idea. "Lizard, if you do as I say, we will always have plenty food. Go to this village," continued Anansi. "When you get there, knock your head a few times on the ground so that everyone turns around and sees your haircut. If anyone asks you how you got it, send them to me." So the lizard would have probably gone and to the village and knocked his head like this. Just as the lizards knock their heads. Lizard did exactly as Anansi instructed him. He went to the next village, and as he entered, he knocked his head loudly on the ground. Pam, 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 pam. Everyone turned to stare at him. "What a beautiful haircut!" everyone exclaimed. The news spread. Soon, everyone in that village heard of the handsome lizard and came running to take a look. The chief of the village heard about it too, and he sent for the lizard to come see him. The chief quickly admired Lizard's haircut and asked how he could get the same for himself. Lizard told the chief about Anansi the Spider-Man. The chief then ordered Anansi to be brought to him. When Anansi came, the chief asked that he be paid. When Anansi came to see the chief, Anansi asked that he be paid with food. The chief agreed, no problem. After the chief's hair was done, everyone else wanted a haircut. The village people gave Anansi a lot of food. There were yams, plantains, cassava, cocoyam leaves, palm nuts, onions, tomatoes, fish, meat, and more. The lizard kept knocking his head on the ground to draw attention, and it became a habit. He still runs around today, knocking his head on the ground a few times when he remembers the story. Pam, pam, pam. The end.
The Gum Man. One day, Anansi stumbled home, crying with pain. "What is it?" asked his wife, Aso. "Are you all right?" "No," he groaned. "I think I'm going to die. The pain is so bad." "Don't you think it's too early to die?" replied Aso, who was a very practical woman. "I'll run for the medicine man." When she got back, she found Anansi on the ground. "Anansi," she said, "the medicine man will be here soon." Aso began to cry. "Aso," replied Anansi in a very weak voice, "it's too late. My last wish is for you to bury me in our farm with pots and cooking utensils. That's all." Asa was very surprised, but before she could say anything else, Anansi took his last faint breath and died. The Spider-Man's last request was very strange indeed, but Asa had to do as Anansi willed. Finally, Anansi was buried on his farm. Time passed. Some weeks after Anansi's burial, Asa noticed that someone had made a fire in their farm. She found piles of yam, cassava, and plantain peels. Someone was stealing food from the farm and eating it. Asa ran to the medicine man. "We'll catch the thief if there is one," said the medicine man, looking very grave. He muttered something under his breath. Come back tomorrow." The next day, the medicine man gave Asa a gum man. "Place this gum man in the middle of the farm," he said. "If anyone comes to the farm at night and touches the gum man, he will get stuck to it." Now, the gum man was a lifelike figure of a man covered in very sticky gum. The gum man was so sticky that it firmly held onto anything that touched it. Asa followed the medicine man's instruction. She carefully placed the gum man in the middle of the farm and returned home. Night fell, and everyone in the village fell asleep. There was total darkness, except for the moon, which barely shone through the clouds. Suddenly, there was a loud rustling noise in the middle of the farm. Someone was creeping through the bushes. It was Anansi! He found some yams and started digging them out. He was busy digging when he noticed a man standing close by. "Who's that?" Anansi crept sharply. The man stayed silent. Anansi crept closer to have a look. "What are you doing in the middle of my farm?" hissed Anansi, amazed at the man's insolence. "Answer me when I talk to you," shouted the Spider-Man, coming up close. "You are on my farm, so speak!" There we go. The man said nothing. Anansi was so angry that he pushed the man out of his way. But when he touched the man, his hand got stuck. "How dare you!" screamed Anansi, trying to pull away. "Let me go! Let me go!" Anansi tried to free himself, but as soon as he touched the gum man, he got stuck. He screamed and shouted so loudly that Aso, Ntikuma, and everyone in the village heard the noise and ran to the farm. Everyone was amazed to see Anansi stuck to the gum man. The Spider-Man was not dead. He was very much alive. Everyone started to laugh at Anansi and his greeting ways. Everyone understood that the Spider-Man didn't want to work on the farm. All he wanted to do was eat at night and sleep all day. Aso left Anansi hanging on the gum man for days. When she finally released him, he was so ashamed of himself that he ran up and hid in his web. The end.
The title of this next story is The Hot Beans. The Hot Beans. I perceive that Anansi really liked beans. So let's get into the story and see what he's up to this time. One day, Anansi went to visit his uncle, who lived far, far away in another village. It was a long journey, and the sun was hot. But finally, Anansi got there. As soon as Anansi approached his uncle's home, an extraordinary smell wafted up his nose. It was the smell of cooked beans. Beans. Ah, beans. The Spider-Man loved beans. He could eat beans all day and all night. Anansi's eyes glazed over and he licked his lips. Anansi's uncle was very happy to see the Spider-Man and gave him a warm welcome. He asked Anansi about the Spider-Man's family, but all Anansi could think about was beans, beans, beans. He wanted to get his hands on those beans right away. Anansi waited for his uncle to step away. As soon as his uncle did, Anansi turned the direction of the pot. He smacked his lips loudly and stretched his hands. He grabbed several heaps of beans, but before he could stuff them in his mouth, his uncle returned. Anansi quickly lifted his hat, placed the hot beans Anansi quickly lifted his hat, placed the hot beans on his head, and placed the hat back on his head to hide them. Anansi, oh my God. The beans continued to sizzle on Anansi's head. He could hardly bear the pain. "Uncle," he said in a weird voice, "I have to leave now. I have to go." "But why?" asked his uncle, looking both perplexed and annoyed. "You just came in," he stared at Anansi. Anansi's eyes bulged with horror. "I gotta go. I gotta go." "What is wrong with you, Anansi?" yelled his uncle, tapping his stick on impatiently. "What is wrong with you? Are you okay? Are you all right? Are you mad? Are you insane? What's wrong with you?" But before Anansi's uncle could finish his sentence, Anansi screamed and pulled up his hand. "Ouch! Ouch! My head!" The hot beans spilled to the ground. Steam rose up from Anansi's scorched head. "You scoundrel! You scoundrel! You scoundrel!" yelled the Spider-Man's uncle. He wasn't amused at all. A crowd gathered to see Anansi's burnt head, but he ran off and hid in his web for many, many days. The end. This last story in this book is called The Wisdom Pot. The Wisdom Pot. And before I read The Wisdom Pot, this book entitled The Contest and Other Spider-Man Tales is written by Adolika Nina Sowa. Adolika Nina Sowa. And it's a very interesting book that we are reading this time round. It's been retold and illustrated by Adolika Nina Sowa. So the last story in this book is The Wisdom Pot. The Wisdom Pot. Let's get into it and see what Anansi is up to this final time in this story. "I wish I were the only wise person in the world," Anansi once said to himself. He closed his eyes and smiled. Anansi was very greedy, so he picked up all the pieces of wisdom he could find and hid them in a very huge earthen pot. Anansi then tried lifting up the pot, but it was very heavy. He stopped and scratched his beard. "I need to hide this pot as soon as possible. I don't want anyone to find it." Anansi scouted the forest and found a huge tree. It was so tall that its branches seemed to reach the sky. "Good," thought Anansi, smiling to himself. "I will hide my pot in the topmost branches. No one will find it there." He placed the heavy earthen pot between his belly and stretched to grip the tree trunk. It was now midday and sweat rolled down Anansi's face. His hands were tired and slippery. He could barely hold the tree trunk. Suddenly, he heard a voice. He craned his neck to see who it was. "Anansi's son," Ntukuma was staring at him. "Father!" shouted Ntukuma. "Father! Don't you think that it would have been easier if you tied the pot to your back?" "Why is that?" yelled back Anansi, furious that someone had seen him. "Well," answered his son, "if the pot is on your back, your hands will be free to grip the tree trunk and go up faster." Anansi realized that he may have had all the wisdom, but Ntukuma still had some common sense left. The Spider-Man became so angry that his hands shook. The pot felt unbearably heavy. It slipped through Anansi's fingers and crashed down. Boom! Punchai! The pot hit the ground with a frightening thud. Pieces of wisdom flew in all directions. Pieces went west, east, north, and south. Anansi screamed with rage. "No! No! No!" and scrambled up the tree into its thick, lush greenery. He sat there in his web, weeping with anger and shame. As the pieces of wisdom flew east, flew west, flew north, flew south, people picked them up. The people who picked them up became wise, and those that did not remained foolish. And that is why they were both wise. That is why there are both wise and foolish people all over the world. The end. So, ladies and gentlemen, there we have the escapades of Anansi. Anansi is like a mascot back in Ghana, and that is our national mascot, so to speak. And growing up, we told many tales and stories by the fireside about Anansi. Grannies told these stories to children and grandchildren. Our parents told them to us, and we in turn have told them to our children. And many authors back home and around the world have written stories about Anansi, captured it in books, retold them so that we can preserve this heritage. So we've just listened to a few of the escapades and stories of Anansi, and we learn lessons out of these stories in order to be able to live our lives properly and to be good citizens in our communities, in our countries. Thank you very much for taking time to listen to these stories, different stories by myself and William Sternick. We hope that you've enjoyed them, and we would like to encourage you to come back the next time we post the next video, and be ready to listen, to subscribe, to like, to click on the notification button, and then share it. So once again, if you're a returning subscriber, thank you very much for the support. Thank you very much for all that you're doing, for the interactions. We really appreciate it. And if you're new, if perchance a friend, a family member, a colleague shared the video with you, please make sure to watch it, subscribe to the channel, click on the notification button, and most important of all, share the video. Thank you very much. My name again is Eddie Nolte, also known as Papa NORR. See you in the next reading.
Ando Aziz. how long have you guys been here?
About a week.
A week. So, is it your first time in Japan?
Maybe you've been here before.
Yeah.
Yes, you've been here before.
How long y'all gonna be here for?
It's a total of
3 weeks. And how do you see Japan so far?
I really love it here. I love the people. I personally, I'm really interested in fashion, so I love to see outfits. I love how clean it is. This city makes me do a lot of things that I don't do back in Ghana.
And Kwame?
I just love the way they cooperate with their system, the government, and the rules and regulations. Their time, they are very punctual.
Yeah.
Good. So when you go back to Ghana, what are you going to teach your friends before you
That
leave
one
from
you can
Ghana?
ask Princess. Princess have a little...
about midnight, about time.
Princess, what are you going to do?
Well, I like to encourage my friends to be more clean. Normally in Ghanaian schools, we litter a lot and it's not very good. They are not very good with time. We are mostly late for some occasions and events. I really like to help my friends come better and stuff like that.
Okay, and you?
I think what you teach them about the culture of experience here and how it's a really kind of like a mind-opening thing when you visit new cultures and the new things you learn and what you can pick up from. What you tell them all about what you have picked up. So, as you said, the time management.
I'm
actually going to teach them about their culture. The one I actually love is the one that when you are going to their homes, Japanese homes, you have to leave your outdoor shoes and wear indoor shoes to prevent germs and dust and everything. And I really like that.
Wow, beautiful. So, oh, sugoi Ghana. Bye-bye, stay. Bye-bye, stay. Bye-bye, stay.
The table tennis here.
where you guys from? Where you guys from? And you're greeting who?
Thank you.
I was in Ghana. I said,